familiar with. Mr. Baker, I see where being gets it from. I had prepared 2 speeches this morning, and Mr. Baker has inspired me to go with the second one. So I was told to be accurate, be brief, and be seated. I promise I'll be as brief as possible, no matter how long it takes. Please forgive me, I'm coming over, getting over a cold. James Baldwin once wrote, "For while the tale of how we suffer, and how we are delighted, and how we may triumph, is never new, it always must be heard." We gather today to tell an essential part of our American story, one that has at times been overlooked. From our earliest days, Black history has been American history. We quarried the stone that built the White House. We fought for our nation's independence. We fought to hold this union together in the Civil War. We fought for the freedom of others around the world when we didn't have it for ourselves. We're the scientists and inventors that spurred American innovation. We stand not only on the giants, the shoulders of the giants that are in this room, like Mrs. Baker, but also countless nameless heroes who marched and fought for freedom for all of us. As Americans, we rightfully passed on the tales of the giants who built this nation, who led armies into battle and waged seminal battles in Congress and in the halls of justice. But often we ignored or forgot the stories of millions upon millions of others who built this nation just as surely, whose humble eloquence, whose calloused hands, whose steady drive to help create a better nation and build the arsenals of democracy have been forgotten. And so Black History Month helps to tell a more vibrant story, a fuller story of who we really are. It helps us better understand the lives, yes, of the mayor, but also the slave, the industrialist, but also the porter, the keeper of the status quo, but also the activist who fights to overturn the status quo, the teacher or the cook alongside the statesman. And by knowing this story, we better understand our story. It binds us together. It reaffirms that all of us are American, that African American history is not somehow separate from American history. It's not the underside of the American story, it is the American story. That our glory derives not just from our most obvious triumphs, but how we wrestled victory from tragedy. How we've been able to remake ourselves again and again and again. I too am American. The great historian John Hope Franklin once said, "Good history is a good foundation for a better present." He understood the best history doesn't just sit in a glass case. It helps us to understand what's outside of the glass case. The best history helps us recognize the mistakes that we've made and the dark corners of our reality. And yes, with a clear-viewed eye, history can make us uncomfortable and shake us out of our comfort zones and our familiar narratives. But it's precisely because of that history and that discomfort that we learn and grow and harness our collective power to make our community better. That's the story that Black History Month tells. One of suffering and delight. One of fear, but also of hope. Of wandering in the wilderness and then seeing the marvelous light. African Americans have felt the cold weight of slave shackles and the stinging lash of the field whip. but we also dared to run north and sing freedom songs. We've buttoned up our Union blues to join the fight for freedom. We've rallied against injustice for decade upon decade. Yes, Black History Month tells a story of people who felt the indignity, the small and large humiliations of white-only signs, or wept at the side of Emmett Till's casket, or fell to their knees on shards of stained glass to weep for 4 little girls killed in Birmingham. But it also tells the story of Black youth and white youth who sat together at lunch stools, straight back and full of dignity. The story of 6-year-old Ruby Bridges who faced the injustices of subpar education but walked as the first African American to integrate a school. Tuskegee Airmen soaring the skies not just to defeat a dictator, but to free us all. This is the time to understand how protest and love of country don't merely coexist, but inform each other. How men can proudly win the gold for their country, but still insist on raising a black-fisted glove for freedom. How we can wear a "I Can't Breathe" t-shirt and still grieve for fallen police officers. We have shown the world that we can float like butterflies and sting like bees. We can rocket into space like Mae Jemison. We can steal home like Jackie Robinson. We can stir the pot like Richard Pryor. Or we can be sick and tired of being sick and tired like Fannie Lou Hamerson. And still rock steady like Aretha Franklin. We are large, Walt Whitman told us, containing multitudes. We are large, containing multitudes. Full of contradictions. That's America. That's what makes us grow. That's what makes us extraordinary. And as is true for America, so is true for the African American. We're not a burden on America, or a stain on America, or an object of pity or charity for America. Amen. We are America. Amen. And that's what Black History Month explains. The fact that our stories have shaped every corner of American society. The struggles for freedom that took place made our Constitution a living, breathing document, tested and shaped and deepened and made more profound in its meaning for all. The story told here doesn't just belong to Black Americans, it belongs to all Americans. For the African American experience has been shaped just as much by European and Asians and Native Americans and Latinos. We have informed each other. We are polyglot. We are astute. Scripture promised that if we lift the oppressed, then our light will rise. The darkness and night of our lives will become like the noonday. And the story contained in Black History Month makes those words prophecy. I too am American. It is a glorious story, the one that's told here. It's complicated and it's messy, and it's full of contradictions, as all great stories are, as Shakespeare is, as Scripture is. And it's a story that perhaps needs to be told more often. The Bible tells us in Galatians 6 and 9, and let us not be weary in well-doing. For in due season we shall reap if we faint not. As long as we keep at it, as long as we don't get discouraged, as long as we are out there fighting the good fight. Not just on one day, not just on 1 month, but every single day and every single month. I have no doubt that we're going to live up to the promise of our founding ideals. And that all of us, no matter where we come from, no matter what we look like, are going to have the opportunity to live our dreams. A month alone will not alleviate poverty in every inner city or every rural hamlet. It won't eliminate gun violence from our community, from our neighborhoods, or immediately ensure that justice is always colorblind. It won't wipe away every instance of discrimination in a job interview or sentencing hearing, or folks trying to rent an apartment. Those things are up to us. The decisions and choices we make. It requires speaking out and organizing and voting until our values are fully reflected in our laws and policies. But what this month does show us is that even in the face of oppression, even in the face of unimaginable difficulty, America has moved forward. And so this month provides context for the debates of our times. It illuminates them and gives us some sense of how they evolve, and perhaps keeps them in our conversation. Perhaps it can help a white person understand the pain and the anger of demonstrators in places like Tulsa and Charlotte. But it can also help black people appreciate the fact that not only is a younger generation carrying on traditions of the past, but within the white communities across this nation, we see sincerity of law enforcement officials in fits and starts that are struggling to understand and are trying to do right by all black people. It reminds us that the routine discrimination and Jim Crow aren't ancient history. It's just a blink in the eye of history. It was just yesterday. And so we should not be surprised that not all the healing is done. We shouldn't despair that this is not all solved. And knowing the more significant history should instead remind us of just how remarkable the changes that we've seen are. And for young people in my generation and younger who didn't live through the struggles of the past, I hope we draw strength from the changes that have taken place. I hope we read and see the power of our own agency. I hope we read and see how young John Lewis was, how young MLK was when they changed history. The very fact that this month does not provide that America is perfect, but it does validate the ideas of our founder. That this country born of change, this country born of revolution, this country of we the people, this country can get better. Amen. And that's why we celebrate. All right. Mindful that our work is not yet done. Yes. Mindful that we are but a way station on the journey to freedom. In closing, I leave you with the thought that I heard from a preacher in Nashville. He said, "We have not because we vote not." God bless you.